Happy EEKtober, everybody. We are doing 31 days of scary movies, and today is day 9. I'm your host, Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker, and my topic when I speak is something I call Take the Doughnut, which is another way to say Carpe Diem. Basically, it's all about going after the things that you want in life. It comes from this weird thing that happened in college where I left an actual donut on a table, but that became an object lesson for me and what it looks like to leave opportunities behind. So now, want to take the donut. Now, from time to time, I'll issue myself a take the donut challenge. If there's something that I want to do, I'll make it official. I'll say it's a take the donut challenge, and that'll just encourage me to take some action and hold myself accountable. Now I'm opening up a Take the Donut challenge for anybody who wants to join, and that is to watch 31 days of scary movies. And here we are. So it is day 9, and we're watching Black Christmas today. It's from 1974. This is like, look, I don't want to say classic because I think classic has a certain connotation with horror films. It's not exactly a classic like a classic monster movie, but this is a classic slasher. This was directed by Bob Clark. It's written by Roy Moore, and starring a bunch of people, but let's include Olivia Hussey, Jess Bradford, Margot Kidder, who played Barb, Keir Dullea, who played Peter, John Saxon, who played Lieutenant Fuller, and Marion Waldman, who played Mrs. Mack, among many others. There's quite a few people on this cast because we need to kill a lot of people, though. It's a slasher. In this series, there's a 2006 and a 2019 remake. I can't speak to those, but the 1974 version is definitely something that is an inspiration for a lot of other films. There's a lot of stuff that you'll see here that is going to influence the future. When I called this a slasher and didn't call it a home invasion, I suppose I could have. I mean, I guess they spoil that from like the very beginning, but it is also the final reveal. And so I didn't want to tip any hands there. But you do kind of know right from the beginning that this is a home invasion film. So, you know, this one is just the way they play with silence, the way they play with sort of like red herrings and multiple murders and you know, like pinning it on the wrong person, and they give you all different kinds of people who this could be, you know, who could be the bad guy. And you know, and just the very nature of the calls, you know, this kind of brings to mind a little bit of When a Stranger Calls, which we've already watched, in terms of like the eeriness on the voice on the phone. But this takes it to another level. This man is often saying things that I don't even really feel comfortable to say in this video. So it's a really dark film. It's darker than you think. It's darker than you may even remember when you go back to it. And they kill a lot of people. So let's go through some of the, you know, we'll go through the scenes, and I'll just sort of mention some of the finer points of each of them. You know, the credits are going to start over a house that's decorated for Christmas, so we know exactly what time it is. You know, we're in a sorority house, and so we're in college, and if we're getting close to Christmas, we're getting close to a break where people are meant to be going home, which is part of the reason why this guy's not getting caught, because people think that the people who are being killed are just leaving for the holidays. We're going to hear Silent Night sung by a choir. We're going to see a person walk up into the house and go in. There's a bunch of people inside, a lot of people gathering there, sort of having a bit of a party, but saying goodbye to each other for the break. We're going to look through a curtained window, and then we're going to see somebody who concerns us a lot more. We don't see who it is, but we hear heavy breathing as this person walks up to the house. The technique here is to use, I think, a handheld camera so that it's kind of unsteady, looks unstable, similar to how unstable this person is. They're snorting, they're looking up at the windows, they're scoping out a way to get into the house. And I'm not convinced that they've never been in this house before. I think they're scoping it out, but it may not be the first time. So this person looks up, kind of scanning through the house. They'll see one place where a couple of walls meet at a perpendicular angle, and he sees some vines, but decides against it, continues to walk around the house, and now sees a corner that has a trellis. And this This seems like a good place to go. We're going to see a shadow of this person only. Meanwhile, we're going to get Barb shutting the front door, and as this, heavy breathing person keeps walking around, goes to the trellis and is going up the trellis. And because it's sort of like a handheld camera from that person's perspective, so we're going up the trellis with him. Barb is the ringleader of the group. She's saying, why was I the only one working tonight? They're doing some sort of a charity event for kids the next day. She's the one who was prepping. And Jess is going to take a call. Not the first call they've gotten like this. It's a long distance call for Barb. Actually, this first call isn't one of these calls yet. There's going to be a long distance call for Barb. We see that the person who was sneaking up the trellis is now in the attic. They're looking around, they're scoping it out. And Barb is on the phone with her mom and sounds like she's having a really hard time hearing. She tells that to the operator. And we're going to find out over the course of this call that her mom is changing plans for the holidays. And now Barb is trying to enlist some people to go with her to go skiing, which is going to change things up for a few people probably in this house. We see this person in the attic open. There's an attic, a door, I guess it's, or a cover, and they are going to come down. They're going to walk down those stairs or climb down those stairs, really. And that person is watching Barb. The number of times we see this person watching other people without getting caught is creepy and suspicious. So we're going to see a couple of people saying good night and see you in a week. And that by itself isn't important, except that it just sets us up to know that people are leaving and it's going to be hard to track people down and know for sure whether they left or not. Okay, so the phone is going to ring again, and this time Jess is going to answer. Jess is going to be the primary one to answer these nasty calls. At first, there's no response, and she's like, oh, we've got a moaner again. And this has happened apparently a bunch of times. So the girls are going to all crowd around. This has become a bit of an event. There's really heavy breathing and a slurping sound and screaming and squealing, a lot of squealing. All the girls are listening. We spend a long time panning across all of their faces so we can see how serious the situation is. We really hold on this discomfort. He snorts, he laughs. He's saying things that I don't even really know that I should be saying them in this video. He's using really foul language, really sexual language. Let me lick it. We're watching all of their faces. He says, I'll come over. You can suck. Barb's like, no, enough of this already. She tells him off. And she's making him mad. And then when she really gets to the end of telling him off, in like a normal voice, he says, I'm going to kill you. And he hangs up. I don't know what was creepier. All the noises he was making before, or the very calm, I'm going to kill you after that. And he makes good on that promise, by the way. So the girls are joking it off, but it's not that funny. They're saying things like fastest tongue in the West. I think that's how they've been making peace with this disgusting series of phone calls they've had. Claire wishes that Barb didn't provoke him. Barb was like, oh, come on. We establish that there's extra reason to be cautious because there was a town girl that was raped a couple weeks ago. So Claire's not that happy with Barb for annoying this guy even more. And so she's going to go to pack because she's going to be the first to leave. Mrs. Mack, another character, she's sort of like the den mother. She comes back and she's been shopping. And so she's going to show everybody her stuff. She's tipsy. She drinks all the time. She has hidden booze all over the place. So part of the game is all the different places that she's hidden booze throughout her room in the house. She lives there. We're going to see Claire packing in her room. And as she pulls a bunch of clothes out from the closet, we get the feeling that there's somebody hiding behind a plastic garment sheet in her, like what you'd get if you've been to the dry cleaner. There's a plastic bag in her closet. And it might be hiding somebody. So she goes a little bit closer to the closet to inspect. She gets really close and there's a guy in there. And he's going to asphyxiate her. He sort of half strangles her, half just makes it so she can't breathe. We see that stop sort of midway, but we kind of know how it's going to finish off. But nobody can hear this because the ladies are talking very loudly. I have to say, there are a few phone calls that happen in this film, especially a couple of the later ones, as the crowd starts thinning out, that you would think they'd hear this man in the house making this call with how loud he's talking sometimes. But right now, there's a whole bunch of people in there. They're talking loudly, and so it's nobody can even hear the fact that Claire is being killed upstairs. So somebody's going to walk out of Claire's room. That shadow goes back up to the attic and closes the door. He just like comes down to surprise somebody and kill them and goes back up to sanctuary. Now it's time for bed. Mrs. Mack is finding hidden booze all over the place. Jess and Phil are going to come in. The phone rings. And it's for Jess. This time it's Peter who's on the phone. He was too tired to come to the party. He's been prepping for a recital for days now. She needs to talk to him face to face. This isn't the kind of conversation they can have over the phone. He's like, stop playing games. I've got a recital. You know, this is important for me. She says, no, let's meet up tomorrow. Let's meet up at 2 p.m. He's like, I love you. She's like, I know. Well, that's never hopeful way for us to meet characters who are supposedly in love with each other. So Mrs. Mack, who is quite the vibrant character, she's going to brush her teeth with quite the flourish. And then she's going to find some more hidden booze in the toilet. And then she's going to drink it and use it to swish. I don't know. It's gross. Okay, so Jess is going to go upstairs to Claire's room and she's going to knock on the door, but there's no answer there. Maybe the assumption is she's probably already left. But that's, if you're wondering that, nope, because we're going to get a shot of Claire, who's sitting in a rocking chair in the attic with a plastic bag over her face with a shocked look, like a gasping for air look. And we're going to hear a creepy lullaby from the man. And we're going to get a lot of shots of Claire in this position and in this movie. And yes, she met an untimely death and he carried her all the way up to the attic. Nobody noticed any of this. Okay, so we are going to get a church clock. It's actually 1:30 the next day. We know that, what's the significance of that? Because we know that Jess and Peter are supposed to meet at 2 p.m. the next day, but actually we're about to meet a new character. It's Claire's dad. He's pacing. She was supposed to meet him at 1 p.m. and she has not showed up. And so he finds a random guy and he's like, I'm supposed to meet my daughter. She is late. She's in this sorority. The guy's like, well, I know where it is. I can point you in that direction. But meanwhile, most of the people in the sorority are working this event with Santa and the kids. Santa's a little annoyed with Barb because she's made other plans with his girlfriend. So he had plans and now she's going to go skiing with Barb instead. He's cranky and he's inappropriate in front of the children. Barb also is getting drunk at this event. So, hey, it's all in good fun. So we're going to see Mrs. Mack, and she is not sure where Claire is. At this point, Claire's dad has come over, and unfortunately, the adult in the house is Mrs. Mack, and she's not conservative enough for Claire's dad. So he's going to see naughty posters all over her room. And she's, there's no hiding it. She tries at one point to hide one of them and sort of censor it a little bit with her hand. But it's a lot for Mr. Harrison to take in. And it's not very encouraging about the environment that his daughter has been in. He's disappointed in the atmosphere. He sees photos of Chris Hayden, her boyfriend. He didn't send her here to drink and have boyfriends. So Mrs. Mack says, let's just try the fraternity house. That might be where we'll find her. She's going to fix herself up. She's complaining. She's muttering to herself, "What do you all want from me?" She's calling for Claude the cat. She can't find Claude the cat anywhere. She's so distracted. She spills all this stuff in her bag. She's looking for Claude the cat. She's just rambling and she's getting finicky. And at this point, Mr. Harrison's going to come up the stairs and be eye level with her. And she's like, "Thank you so much for helping to take me over to the fraternity." And so he's like, "Yep, anything I can do." He really wants to be rid of her at this point. She's going to flip him off as he goes back down the stairs. And he's going to drive her to the next destination. And we're going to see that it doesn't matter what destination they go to, because we're going to look through the upstairs attic window through Claire's dead face. That's where she is. And that's not where they're looking. So meanwhile, we have to figure out what Jess needed to tell Peter. She's pregnant. We saw that one coming a mile away. Am I right? She doesn't want to have the baby. And that's worse news to Peter. He wants to have the baby. They have a fight. And he's like, "I can't even believe you're doing this right before my recital. Like, go. Let's talk about it tonight." She doesn't really want to, because she's not going to change her mind. But here it is. So we go to this kids function. Mr. Harrison is at the kids function now, watching Barb be really drunk and give alcohol to one of the kids. I mean, this movie is like so many people doing things that are like unexpectedly inappropriate. I feel like they lifted a code regulation and allowed people to do more things in movies. And this movie was like, we're going to do all the things. Except maybe like we don't actively see people hooking up. So I guess that's an interesting one that they sort of stayed away from. Okay, so Jess is going to get home. She's there. She gets the phone, and we're going to hear the man again. And he's saying things like, "Billy," what he's screaming at Billy. "What your mother and I must know is, where did you put Agnes?" Now, this stuff that he's saying, he's assuming different voices for different characters, and it feels like he is reliving something from earlier in his life. He did a bad deed and somebody was chastising him, perhaps. So that's what's coming to mind for me here. She's going to hang up. She doesn't want to hear this. We're going to go to the police station, where we're going to get Claire, Barb, and their friend Phil. They report Claire missing, but the sergeant who takes all their information doesn't take it seriously at all. He's like, girls who are missing, they're usually just with their boyfriend. It's fine. They're pretty unimpressed with his level of enthusiasm about this problem, given that he is, in fact, the person who's supposed to be serious about problems like this. Mrs. Mack is going to come home with a bunch of bags of stuff. I imagine there's probably booze in there somewhere. Jess is going to help her. Mrs. Mack is in the closet. And I just love that this film does things like this. They put her in the closet. She's looking for booze, but she's bent over all the way into her rack of clothes, where we can't see most of her body for, I don't know, was it 40 seconds? Was it closer to a minute? I mean, she's in there for a long time. And we know somebody just was killed while going into their closet. And she's doing the same thing. But she is going to come back up with an empty booze bottle. Oh, well, sometimes you find the booze bottle, but no booze. Barb is going to give the cop, the sergeant that she's talking to, the phone number for the sorority house. She gives him the new exchange, Fellatio 20880. He's like, "What?" She spells it out for him. He buys it. So she's pranked him. She's fully drunk. He doesn't get the joke. But she's planted it there, and it's going to be discovered later. So we're going to go to hockey practice, because it's been a while since they've seen Claire. So Jess is going to check in with Chris, the guy who was in the picture with her, maybe her boyfriend. So he hasn't seen Claire, and that's a concern, because that was like the last place to look. The police didn't even take the missing person report seriously. Chris hears this and he's like, "What?" So now it's going to get serious because more people are going to put pressure on the police. But first, Peter is doing a piano recital, and due to the terrible news that he just received, he is going to struggle and sweat through it. And I mean, look, the music sounded decent to me, but it didn't sound decent to Peter. And he finishes and he hangs his head. He obviously is not happy with how he performed in this recital. We are going to get now another person at the police station, and we're going to find things are really complicated in this town. There's a woman who's reporting a missing person, her 13-year-old daughter. Now, it's been only a few hours since the daughter has been gone, but she is suspicious because she would have expected her daughter to be back. And once again, people aren't taking this super seriously. Chris, though, now is going to storm in angrily that there's nothing being done about the missing person report for Claire. He asks for a file from the sergeant. The lieutenant is asking for the file from the sergeant because the lieutenant's hearing this, and now he's finding out the sergeant isn't doing his job properly. And so he's just minimizing every issue. And there are some serious issues. There are multiple missing people happening. And there was a murder a couple weeks ago. So he's going to start taking this on himself. We're going to go over to the Kappa house again. Mr. Harrison, they fixed him dinner, but he's not hungry for it. He's not even really sure what to do. Mrs. Mack is like, just stay. She'll call. It'll be fine. Barba's really drunk, and she is going to make things even more. Nobody deserves how uncomfortable Barb is making this. They're just being gross to be gross in this film, I think. She tells Mr. Harrison, who is clearly a very conservative person, who is like not interested in hearing about anybody's sexual exploits, including a turtle's. Barb is going to talk about a species of turtle that can screw for 3 days without stopping. She tells a long story about this. Phil is in there. She's laughing, knowing exactly what Barb is doing. Barb is like, yeah, I've seen him at the zoo, but you know what? I went to the zebras because they can do it in 30 seconds instead. And Phil's like, okay. What are you going to do about Barb? She's been sort of deflecting because I think Barb is getting drunk because she's feeling pretty guilty right now. She's like, you all think that I drove Claire away after that whole little altercation they had over Barb telling the guy on the phone off and Claire being like, you're not taking this seriously enough. I don't like that you exacerbated the situation. She's like, come on, I didn't exacerbate the situation. Barb is now reevaluating that, knowing that Claire is missing. Phil's going to send her to bed, where she will be until she dies. So we're going to see Peter. How'd that recital go, Peter? Well, he's wrecking his piano. He's big time wrecking the piano. He's taken all those frustrations out on the instrument. Feels like an expensive way to do it. We're going to see Jess and Chris. They're going to come to the house. They're going to find Mr. Harrison. They've said, okay, the cops are finally taking us seriously. Let's go. They all leave. But Mrs. Mack stays back. And she, instead of like the classic, I'll be right back, she says, I'm going to my sister's for the holidays. I might not be here anymore when you get back. So don't bother looking for me. It'll be fine. Meanwhile, we're going to find out the police are taking things a lot more seriously. So the woman who went into the station earlier with the 13-year-old child who was missing, they're now doing a townwide search for her and possibly also for Claire at the same time. And so that's good. That's progress. Meanwhile, at the Kappa house, somebody is outside looking at it. Doesn't feel necessarily like that's going to be our killer, because we've seen him inside the house. Why would he be outside looking? But he could be. Definitely could be. Meanwhile, Mrs. Mack is singing and packing and drinking and finding more booze wherever she can. We're going to see Claude, the cat she was looking for, is upstairs in the attic licking Claire's plastic-covered face. The taxi is here. And so Mrs. Mack is ready to go, but she hears Claude, the cat. She hears creaking upstairs. She's like, oh, got to get that Claude. So she climbs up to the attic. She looks around. She's not seeing anything. It's kind of dark up there. Meanwhile, we see that there's somebody poised with a big hook, big metal hook, ready to throw it at her and knock her out and catch her. And she looks around. She finally sees that there's somebody poised with the hook. And that hook is thrown. We see it from the perspective of the person throwing it. And then we see her legs from below the attic door. And then he hooks her and he lifts her clear up. And she's screaming, or he's screaming. It's really hard to tell. I actually find it very eerie that you can't quite distinguish who's screaming here because of how his scream sounded on the phone before. So the taxi driver's been waiting for her. He's going to shout as we see her, as we finish like with her screaming, we're going to quickly cut to a look at the taxi driver. His face is being magnified as he's looking through the door, and he's shouting to see if he can get anybody's attention. And he can't. He leaves. He's pretty frustrated that this is a fare he's being stiffed on this fare. And so we're going to see the guy in the attic again. He's screaming, he's rocking Claire, and he's destroying things in the attic. I mean, he's really, really unhinged. Okay. We've been searching for, for the 13-year-old, for Claire for a little while. And now we're going to see several of our characters are sort of warming themselves over a fire. They're thinking about calling it quits for the night. At the house, we're going to go very slowly up the exterior windows because we want to see what's happening over the front of the house. And we're going to look in through the attic and we're going to see Claire and we're going to see Mrs. Mack on the hook. What a way to go, There's a scream at the search and somebody found Janice, the 13-year-old girl. So this is looking worse and worse for Claire. This is the second person we know of who has been publicly confirmed to be killed in this town in the past months. So Claire's still missing. They haven't found her, but it's ominous for her outcome. Now we're going to get the phone ringing again at the Kappa house. Jess is going to come home and get it, and we're going to hear the screaming and the squealing and now help me and why, and his more squealing and more help me. I know what you did, Billy, stupid Billy. She's going to hang up. She's had about as much as she can take. She's going to call for Mrs. Mack, but we're not going to see Mrs. Mack. We're going to see a shadow that's moving around upstairs. Jess is then going to make a call as we see this man walking slowly downstairs, or a man walking slowly downstairs, watching her. She's talking to the police. There's a person definitely walking downstairs now, getting really close to her, and they get so close, they throw a jacket over the railing that she's standing right next to. It's Peter. So Peter, he says he was upstairs sleeping. I guess he slept through, how many deaths did he sleep through Mrs. Mack's death? So Jess is like, yeah, well, look, we were out looking for Claire. All right. That's what we were doing. He's like, oh, well, that's great for you. Hey, I've had a bad day, had a bad recital, given some news I got earlier. She's like, leave me alone. So she, she's been trying to get some attention from the cops. The sergeant has taken the report about the calls, but they're busy. He's not really, he takes the call from Jess and he's being somewhat flippant about it still. He's like, look, there was a kid murdered in the park. We're all hands are on deck right now. We don't have the bandwidth to help you guys out. It's probably just a boyfriend playing a joke. We really can't do any more than that. Meanwhile, Mr. Harrison, Chris, and Phil are hearing this, and they're like, oh, we thought the police were going to help. So now Jess and Peter are talking. She's like, look, a little girl was found murdered. That's what I just heard on this call that I was just on. Claire's still missing. Like, this isn't good. This is scary stuff, Peter. Peter is like, yeah, okay, but let's talk about the future. All right. I'm going to leave the conservatory and then we're going to get married. She's like, I don't want to get married though. She's like, I have dreams. He's like, you can still have dreams and be married. And she's like, but I don't want to be married. And then he gets to the point where he's like, okay, so then what about the baby? And you know that's not going to be the answer that he wants to hear. It's definitely not going to be. But we're going to cut right there and we're going to go back to the sergeant. The lieutenant's pretty pissed at the sergeant because he's been flippant about everybody's missing persons reports. And the lieutenant's thinking there might be something to them. So he's like, I can't believe you. Like, what are you doing? The sergeant's like, I didn't want to bother you. You what? This is my job. He's like, you're such an idiot. He sees, so he wants to investigate this further. The sergeant gives him the details and he looks at the number for the sorority house, the one that Barb had given him before, the nasty one that she left with him. And you hear people in the office just start laughing. All the other cops are laughing. They're like, didn't you understand what number she was giving you when she, like, come on, man. What a tool. So we're going to go back to Peter and Jess. He's calling her selfish. He's saying, you want to kill our baby? You're not going to abort the baby. If you try getting an abortion, you'll be sorry. We need yet another thing to pin on Peter here. He's going to leave. He's going to go past the lieutenant in rather a huff. It's kind of suspicious. Jess is upset. And so now there's some people coming to the house to see about those phone calls. They want to tap the phone and the lieutenant's going to actually look around, check out Claire's room, see what there is to see. Jess starts answering some basic questions. She was the last one to see Claire. It was last night. It was not this morning. She's going to give the rest of the girls' phone numbers. Don't worry about Barb. She's asleep. She's not feeling well. Anybody that you can question is here right now. So as they're setting up the phone tap process, they're explaining, like, you have to keep the guy on the phone for as long as possible. It's a mechanical process. There's a patrol car outside that's going to keep an eye on the house. That's great. And, that's good news. And in the meantime, Peter's going to watch the house too, because that's creepy. So Phil is going to hug Jess. They're just sort of dealing with all the stuff that's been happening to them. They think Claire's probably already dead. Phil is going to go up and rest. She needs to sleep this off. She's taking some pills to knock her out. And Jess is going to look at the phone. We're going to get a lingering look at it. The phone tap is ready, but we're not going to get the call just yet. Claire, meanwhile, dead in the attic, is being rocked in the rocking chair by this man holding a baby doll in her arms. Oh my God. So this man is crying and he's muttering, and I do wonder for him what the significance is of having the baby in his arms. Who did he kill before? Okay, Jess, she's sitting at the fire. She hears some creaks upstairs. There's a guy coming down from the attic that we can see. He goes into Barb's room. Gonna get more of the creeping, the creaking. Barb is gonna gasp. Jess is gonna go running. Turns out she needs her inhaler because she had a bad dream. She dreamed that a stranger came into a room. Oh, but that can't be. Definitely can't be. Actually, the strangers are right outside watching them. Carolers are outside though. So Jess is gonna go check out the carolers. You go back to bed, Barb. It'll be fine. Barb goes back to sleep, and now we're going to intercut between the carolers at the door and the stranger going back into Barb's room and killing her with one of her glass unicorn figurines. Fortunately, it has a really long point on it that he can use to stab her many, many times until she dies. So that's happening while the carolers are at the front door. This would explain why nobody hears Barb as she's screaming. And this guy is shouting, Agnes, Agnes, it's me, Billy. It's all right, Agnes. And so he's just fully dissociating at this point. I do love these shots. It's so distinct. We're seeing all these glass figurines that are lined up as we see the shadow of him stabbing her and her bloody hands sort of reaching up. Just part of the movie that doesn't look quite like anything else. Jess is going to clap for the carolers, but a woman comes up and makes all the carolers leave because she just heard about the dead kid that they found. Let's get these kids back home. So Jess is going to go inside anyway because the phone's ringing. She needs to deal with that. So they're tracing this call. It's another groaning, squealing, Billy related call. There's almost like a child crying like sound. Now he's saying things like, what your mother and I must know is just like having a wart removed. Like he's just saying some of these things. A lot of what he says is unintelligible, but it's it's not good. He's assuming multiple voices. He hangs up. It wasn't enough time to trace the call. So the lieutenant's asking, like, does he always use more than one voice? And who was that guy that I walked past earlier? The one that looked kind of suspicious. And so now he's planting in her mind that Peter's kind of suspicious. She's like, it was just Peter. He's like, but who? Who is that? He gets distracted by a disturbance at the station. So meanwhile, Jeff is going to debrief Phil, who she's been out of commission for a little bit, but the more she learns, the more suspicious the two of them are about Peter. Peter's going to call Jess crying. And when we hear Peter call Jess crying, because we know why he's crying, because he doesn't want Jess to have an abortion. And it sounds not the same as the man who called before, but close-ish in the vicinity. So they are going to try to trace this call, but he's not on the phone for long enough. This caller is saying things, Peter is saying things that sound suspicious, like "Don't hurt the baby." He's also barely intelligible. The lieutenant, when the call's done, is like, okay, look, we didn't get that because it was too short, but what was that? Can you give me some context? Killing the baby? She's like, okay, so I'm pregnant and I told him I want an abortion. He's like, when did you tell him that? She says, today. So it wasn't before today. No, it was not before today. So he says, I mean, but it's a little weird the way he phrased it. We can't kill the baby. And she's like, a little strange. He says, was Peter with you any of the times that you got the call? She says, yes, there was a time when he was with me. Whew. Okay, so that seems to redeem him in her eyes. It makes her feel better about the situation. But Lieutenant would like to know where he is so he can question him. He might be at the recital hall. Okay, so the search for Claire is now going to move house to house. And Phil, while she's getting aspirin for Jess, sees a man looking in the window, one of the people who are searching. Actually, it's two of the guys from the search party. So they're going to come up to the front door. The girls are reporting to them, nothing unusual tonight. Now, of course, we don't know for 100% that it's only one guy upstairs. It could be two. We're hearing more than one voice. So seeing two guys come to the door should potentially get our backs up a little bit here. They have their voices are a little off pitch also. It's possible they're throwing a couple other characters our way and they're bringing them right up to the front door with a couple of these girls. So it's a nervous moment for us, but it ends without event. They're like, hey, you should try shutting the doors and the windows and stuff. So that seems like a good plan that they should probably have done a while ago. So the lieutenant is still suspicious of Peter. He wants some records on Peter. Meanwhile, Phil and Jess are going around closing windows and doors in the house. Phil hears Barb's door shut. It actually slams. And that's weird. So she's going to scope that out as the lieutenant enters the recital hall. Love this shot. It's an all dark frame, but there's a rectangle for the door and the lieutenant standing in it. And then he's going to lean over and he's going to turn on the light. But once again, every now and then, this movie will give you a really artistic shot. A lot of times it's more efficient, but every now and then they'll give you something really cool like that. So Lieutenant's going to notice, hey, this piano is destroyed. I wonder how hinged Peter is. So Jess is closing the curtains and the doors. She shouts for Phil. We are going to see the man, the killer from Barb's room, make a call down to the phone near the front door. And Jess is going to answer. And now he's saying things like, you pig. He's squealing. He's shouting like, no, Billy, don't. He's screaming. He's groaning. He's saying things like, where's the baby? So he does stay on the phone long enough. She doesn't even have to get him to do that. He's talking longer and longer on his own. He's really out of it. He's really in a state now. And so we're going to see one of the cops. They're trying to get a hold of each other at this point because they're trying to figure out where this trace is, where the call's coming from. The phone tapper actually finds the number. We can see him doing it. It's really kind of an interesting process to watch. I actually can't make sense of how he determines where this number is coming from or where this call is coming from. But the screaming on the phone continues. He's saying, "Baby mommy." He's saying, "You have the skin to wrap the baby in," which, what happened in this guy's past? And so at that point, he hangs up. That's the end of that call. But Sergeant Nash, now determined that the phone company has found out that the calls are coming from number 6 Belmont Street. Lieutenant's like, no, that's a mistake. That's where they're coming to. He's like, no, it's where they're coming from and where they're going to. And now they're like, oh my God, the lieutenant's like, okay, we have to fix this. So they can't get a hold of Jennings, the guy who was on patrol, because his throat's slashed. Lieutenant asks Nash to call the girl. He says, here's the deal. I want you to tell her to, you be calm, and then you tell her to put the phone down and just walk right out the front door. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. None of that. So he's going to call Jess. And is she going to do what he said? No. So she's looking for Phil. The phone's going to ring. It's Nash. She's like, are you the only one in the house? Jess is like, well, Phil and Barb are here. They're upstairs asleep. He's like, okay, so what you're going to do, no questions, just do exactly what I say. You're going to put the phone on the hook. Then you're going to go out the front door. She's like, but he's like, no, please leave. He's like, he's like, no, you're going to need to go like right now. And so she's like, I'm just going to go get Phil and Bart. He's like, no, you're going to leave. And now his pitch is getting a little higher. He's getting a little more urgent about this. He's like, okay, I'm just going to tell you, the calls are coming from inside the house. All right. So like, get out of the house is what you need to do. She drops the phone, leaves it off of the hook. And, you know, if it were me, I would be using this opportunity to leave the house. That's not what she does. She's going to go upstairs. She's going to shout first as loud as she possibly can to make sure the killer knows exactly where she is. She's going to shout for Phil and Barb. She's going to scream for Phil and Barb. And then she's going to, we're going to see empty shots of upstairs. And it feels like you could at any point see somebody in the upstairs, but we don't. She's going to grab a poker and she's going to take it with her as she goes upstairs. No way would you see me doing this. So she is going to get to Barb's door. She's going to open it, has to do so fairly forcefully, and she sees Barb and Phil dead on the same bed. Lots of blood there. And then we're going to see the shadow of a man. And we're going to hear him whisper, Agnes, it's me, Billy. And then one of the very creepy visuals that we'll get in this movie, we're going to see in the crack of a closet door, or in the crack of is it maybe the crack from behind the door, I think is what we're looking at. We're looking at the crack from the door jamb itself, where the hinges are. He's hiding behind the door. That must be what this is. And we see just a really good shot of one eye. And he's so physically close to her. She slams the door on him. He screams. And then as she runs away, he opens the door. She's going to try to go out the front door, but unfortunately, this is the time that she locked it, and she has no idea how to unlock a locked door. Oh, Jess, honey. You just locked it. It's not hard. Okay, so he pulls her hair. She's going to run into the basement instead of out the front door. She's going to shut that and lock that door behind her. And he's trying to get in, but the lock holds. And now all is quiet because that's eerie. She's going to go downstairs. There are windows in the basement. The police, we see that they're on their way, but they're not there yet. So she's going to hide in the basement. She's going to see a man, a figure of a man, crouched down at one window. We can't make out who it is. It's a shadow. What a great look. It's a very like Nosferatu sort of like shadow moment. The guy crouches down, doesn't like what he sees at that window, is going to move to another window. And then we're going to see, as Jess sort of like moves to a new position in the basement, we're going to see a guy, we're going to see Peter crouching down now. And we can hear his voice like, Jess, are you all right? She's very suspicious of him. She doesn't want him coming near her at all. She's hiding from him in the dark, but he kicks in the window anyway, and he comes in. And then he's walking towards her. She's wielding this poker. He smiles when he sees her. He's like, you had me worried. What are you doing down here? Peter, get with the program. This is not a situation that you walk into with a smile. I don't care if you are innocent. I feel like a modicum of concern is appropriate for this situation. The police are going to pull up to the house. Jennings is dead, the cop, and we're going to hear a scream from inside the house, multiple screams. The police break down the basement door, and they're going to find Peter dead, resting against Jess, who might be dead. No, she's alive. She wakes up. She opens her eyes. And so everybody thinks it's Peter. They sedated her. She'll be out for a while, hours probably. Her parents are on the way. Mr. Harrison, Claire's dad, is hanging out in the room with a bunch of cops watching over Jess. And, the lieutenant's saying, okay, we need to start the autopsies right away. The meteor here, he goes out to deal with that. The other cops go out to deal with that. Mr. Harrison gets up, but he passes out in shock, so they're going to deal with him. They're going to leave Jess in the room alone. We're now going to pan through the house in complete silence. We're going to look at one room after another. We sort of look at Barb's room with the blood-stained mattress. We're going to pan into Claire's room. We're going to pan in silence towards the window. We're going to walk very slowly towards the window. We're going to look up at the attic door. Very slowly, the door lifts, and we hear, Agnes, it's me, Billy. And Claire and Mrs. Mack are still there. So they found 2 of the dead bodies. They found half of the dead bodies in the house, but certainly not all of them. The camera pulls back in silence. It keeps pulling back very slowly until we see the full house. And just there's like 2 buttons on the end of this, because it keeps pulling back until you can see that there's a police officer guarding the front of the house. Doesn't matter, man. The killer's inside in the attic still, and there are 2 more dead bodies that you're not seeing because you're on the porch. And then we pull back just a little bit more, and we hear the phone ring. So it's so good. I love the ending of this movie. I love it. It's so good. Yeah, I don't know that Jess is going to make it through the night on this one, but I mean, and I wonder if they'll ever find the bodies in the attic. What a mess. Just like it seems to be a statement on like how inept the police are, maybe. I don't know. Like yeah. There's no hope at the end of this film. There is a survivor, there is a final girl, and there is no hope for her right now. Even though there should be, because everybody is trying to help at this point, and yet like they're all misinformed. So just like seeing the cop on the porch and then hearing the phone ring and knowing all of this is pointless. Yeah. You got to have endings like this so that any horror movie you watch can have stakes, because they have to end in dismal ways sometimes. Like, that's that. So I so enjoy this movie. It's, like I said, this is a really classic slasher film that informs future slasher films. And so, if you've never seen it before, I hope you came away with some good insights about early films in this subgenre. That's what I thought. about Black Christmas. What did you think? Leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know. And here's my request. So I've watched so many horror movies that I am just desensitized to them at this point. So since my scary meter is busted, I would love for you to get yours out and rate how scary this movie is from 1 to 10. 1 being not scary, 10 being so scary. And with that information, we can get a sense, a ballpark of roughly what most people might think in terms of how scary this movie is. In case you ever need to make a recommendation to people, it's helpful to know, right? So let's see where we land with that. And next time, we're going to talk about the movie Triangle. It's going to be day 10. We're going to talk about Triangle. It's a 2000. I think there's more than one movie called Triangle out there. So what you're looking for is a 2009 film. It's a thriller mystery. It's really not a horror film. I put this on the not too scary list. But it's really good. And I never hear anybody talk about it. So if you're looking at different versions, trying to find the right one, it's the 2009 one with Melissa George. And I can't wait to talk about that one. That's going to take a little bit more thinking, that one, but it's worth it. I'm telling you. Happy EEKtober, everybody. And I hope you'll join me next time. So get spooky, get donuts.